welcome to Bullet Point! We are your host. I'm EP.
I'm JM.
Every week we're going to talk about competitive shooting and everything around it.
So if you're an aficionado, enthusiast, a beginner, or just curious, this is your show.
You can easily connect with us through PHLV Radio Facebook page, Bullet Point Facebook page, or simply email us at bulletpointmediaproduction@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel so you can be able to get the latest episodes of Bullet Point. Are you ready?
Stand by! All right, JM, the weekend was so good.
Yes, it was fun.
It was fun, right?
Yes.
That was a good one.
Yes.
But that was, we were talking about Miggy.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
You know, got a good gun.
Yes, yes. Shout out to NRG and Route 66 and
it's just a lot of people there,
all
right?
Those folks. We shot. So you and I shot over the weekend, and that was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah,
you know,
just a long drive.
I know, it's just a long drive.
But it's good to see our Southern California friends and
reconnecting
family
with them, right?
Yeah.
That was a good weekend for us, guys. So hope you had a good weekend too. So we're gonna talk about a hot topic this week.
Yeah, some changes.
Good 2025 USPSA rule changes.
Yes,
right?
It's some good changes.
Yeah, these are good ones.
I think it's a long time coming.
Yeah.
You know?
This actually shout out to USPSA, you know.
Yeah.
What's new and why it matters, right? So let's just give a little bit of a background on JM about USPSA. I don't know if everybody knows, it was founded in 1984, has stood at the intersection of athleticism, marksmanship, and competitive grit. You know, this was inspired by the practical shooting revolution of the late 70s and the 80s.
Yes.
You know, where the legends, you know, pushed beyond traditional bullseye into dynamic real-world shooting scenarios. So USPSA, guys, has grown into one of the largest action shooting organizations in the world.
Yes.
But like all great sports, USPSA has evolved. Yep. All right, you know. So, Jim, in early days, scoring was tracked with...
it was. I remember. So true story. I was with my father. So he shoots standard.
Okay.
Back in the late 80s, 90s, and when I was with him, it's still in paper.
In paper.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They
wow.
write.
Long time
they
ago,
write
right?
it. They handwrite it now. You know, and it was also tracked with stopwatches, clipboards, calculators. So kind of old school.
Old school. Yeah. That was old school.
Yes.
You remember we were looking for a what it calls a timer over the weekend, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We just let's just use our watches.
Yeah. No, the gear was very rudimentary. Divisions were kind of loosely defined. It wasn't really structured to this day. Classifiers were just very simple, very basic.
Drills,
yeah. They're often designed in the garage or back alley range. Yet the spirit was pure.
Yep.
Right, and there's a lot of hardcore competitor kind of were born and bred through those years, and just a measure of shooters' performance with speed, accuracy, and movement.
The heart is there.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, the heart and the initiative.
Exactly.
You know?
But, fast forward 4 decades. Wow, 40 years, right?
Damn,
USPSA now has over 38,000 members, over 40,000 members. That's a lot,
Yeah.
And then dozens of divisions, high-tech scoring systems now, and a global footprint as well, definitely.
Yeah.
And with this growth, guys, of course, it came with growing pains as well. We learned from these pains, right? Outdated classifiers. We talked about sandbagging last week. Inconsistent hit factors and gear bending division rules. So that's the reason why we want to talk about now 2025. USPSA made actually a very bold move, not just to update the rules, but reset the foundation of how skills are measured, scored, and of course, we all want this one respected, right?
Right.
So why does this matter, JM?
Yeah, I mean, because this year's rule changes marks a pivotal turning point.
Yeah.
Right. A hard shift towards fairness, clarity, and performance-based recognition.
I agree.
I think those are
very important. Yeah. Those are vital, really.
From the first time in the USPSA, USPSA isn't just tweaking procedures,
Yeah.
right? It's just rewriting the competitive narrative. A shooter's entire body of work matters.
Yeah.
Not just the best classifier runs.
I remember the first time I did that.
Right. The high hit factors are standardized across the divisions.
Yeah.
It brings integrity into comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And video evidence now, becomes a tool for justice. Not
Yeah,
just,
because I remember
that's a big one.
Yeah, that's actually a
Right?
good one because I remember. Let's look at your video. No, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count, right? Optic failures,
Yeah.
gear setups, and equipment choices are now fully on the shooter.
Yes.
Right, or
Yeah.
the competitor.
Yeah.
Classifiers are much cleaner now, better and much more relevant in today's match environment.
Exactly. At least that's exactly why we would want to see those changes, and it's happening. So
Yeah.
this is USPSA's version of going from analog or the paper, paper to analog to digital.
Right.
From
Right.
Wild West to world class.
Right,
That's the most
right.
important thing, right?
Right.
So whether you're a brand new shooter now, or you just got your first carry optic rig, or you've got a Grandmaster card right there and a Nationals medal,
Yeah.
the 2025 rules now affects everybody. These changes are designed to protect the legitimacy of your classification. I like that. Legitimacy of classification, because this will definitely improve the quality of match competition and build a system that reflects the skills that you actually earned, not the loopholes that you actually have used. So this is really timely, basing from our previous episode,
I
right?
like this topic because it just
my God.
rolls in from our last week's episode.
And last week when we were over the weekend we were shooting, people were saying, "Hey, this changes is it's a very good timing for you guys to talk about." So why does this matter again, JL?
It's just a detailed breakdown of each 2025 rule change. Kind of real world examples of how these change will play out.
Exactly.
Strategic takeaways to keep you ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So guys, folks, buckle up. This is just not just about knowing the rules. It's about understanding what it's about. USPSA is headed.
Yep.
And where you would fit into it. So let's take a deep dive on the details and pretty much sharpen your edge for the season ahead.
Exactly. Let's talk about the first one.
Yeah.
All classifier scores now count.
No more sandbagging.
No more sandbagging. We talked about that last week. I love that that topic. So what changed?
All classifier scores, even the low percentage ones, now count towards your classification average.
Wow. So you're not just going to count, I did 4 already. Nothing like
so,
that, right?
the 4 highest before, now it's all
everything, right?
Everything's in there. Yeah.
Wow. So it matters because this actually ends those what you call selective score manipulation.
Yeah.
I remember that. So no more gaming the game.
Right. Yeah, no, it's basically those six scores count now.
Yeah. Now every run you shoot is part of that equation already. So that's just what it means. So a good example. Say for example, you shot 10 classifiers.
Right.
3 scores were say 90s. 2 in the 80s, but 5 were bombs, in 40s and 50s, right? So maybe let's just say benefit of the doubt. You were, you were trying a new reload style or just rushing, whatever. Before those 5 low scores were ignored.
Yeah.
Now they're included.
Yep,
they're counted, and
they're
dragging. Definitely, this will drag down your score average, right?
Right.
So what should we do here?
It just run every classifier like it counts.
I agree.
Because like I said, it does.
It does.
So I don't know if you remember, some of the matches back in the day that I've attended, I've seen shooters. It's an actual level 2 or level 3 match, or sometimes area match, and they have a classifier in the match itself.
Yep.
And they, I don't know why they want to bomb it.
Why would you bomb it? Right?
Just to sandbag it, because it will affect your total score.
Exactly, because that's part of the whole.
That's part of the whole. Yes. Yes. So, and then, prioritize consistency over burn it down or hose it down, hero runs, Migs and I, we spoke about the zero or a hero
thing,
stages, just avoid experimental techniques unless you're confident already, under match pressure if you practice it through your dry fire.
And hey guys, this is your, what do you call this? Your grade in school. What do you call that? Report card.
Your report card.
This is it. Right?
Yeah.
So why would you bomb it?
Right. Right.
Okay, let's talk about the second. But I like that. I like that all classifier scores now count.
Yes.
I think, kudos to USPSA for making that work and happen. Let's talk about standardized hit factors across all divisions.
Yeah.
What does it talk about, Jay?
USPSA has, now uses the same, high hit factor, and for each classifier across divisions.
Yes.
And why it matters, it unifies the classification performance benchmarks and creates a level playing field.
I actually like that too. Let's give them an example here.
Yeah.
Say for example, on a classifier, you shoot an El Presidente.
Yeah.
So this is the CM99-11.
Mm-hmm.
It both, say for example, you shoot that both in care optic and production. Before, in production, say for example, your hit factor is 9.5, that's actually equal to 95%. Right? In care optic, if you hit 9.5 hit factor, that is actually equivalent to 89%.
Right.
So it doesn't really,
it doesn't coincide.
It doesn't coincide. So now, in both divisions, 9.5 hit factor is equal to the same percentage. Let's say, say 95%.
Yeah.
So this makes performance evaluation division agnostic. How do you say that? Division agnostic.
Yep.
Oh my God, I could not even pronounce it. Sorry, guys. Right? So that's what it is. So how can we deal with this one?
Just know the new high hit factor for classifiers you frequent.
Yeah.
And don't assume your open scorer is more forgiving than the other
one.
like division.
Yep.
It isn't.
It's not, right?
Set training benchmarks based on the unified standards and not just the old division specific ones.
Wow.
So again, basic stuff, dry fire, and
focusing on skills.
Right, focusing on skills, right? What EP was also wanted to expand on it is when you do classifiers, we wanted to remind our audience that on the USPSA app, they can do the drop down boxes for the classifiers.
Yes.
And you can pick your division, and you can see the percentage on how you're going to shoot.
You should have that app.
Specific classifier.
That's right. Well, that's a good one. All right, let's have another hot topic here. Let's have another one. Reinstatement of the 23 and 24 series classifiers. I know they removed this one last year.
Yeah.
Now they reinstated it again.
Yep. Yep. Previously they retired the 23, 24 classifiers are now reinstated as you mentioned, and it's recalibrated for fairness.
That's good. And why does it matter?
These stages bring variety.
The movements,
real style match challenges, back to classifier matches,
Okay.
So that's.
So we will see that. We will be expecting
we're
that.
We're gonna see some of those kind of layout on the matches that we usually attend.
Exactly. So just to give you an example, guys, on the 23s and the 24s. So your club maybe they bring back CM23-03 or what you call the corner work, and CM24-06. This is the mid-range movers. This stages actually includes the one that Jem was saying: movements, reloads, partials. These are skills relevant to actual match success.
Yeah.
Because all of this reloads, the partials, you're going to use it definitely on the match, right? So I think I like this one, JM, because this is what you're going to be seeing during those. Even local matches has this one in big matches.
Right. Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? What are the tips that we can give them?
Again, review the stages. Make sure you understand. We see a lot of the shooters whenever there are classifiers.
Yeah.
please don't make it a habit. You read the WSBs,
Exactly.
you know, and
WSBs,
not
yeah.
just ask your seatmate on what to do. Right?
Oh, when I was a new person in the shooting, competitive shooting, I usually ask that. I don't even know what WSB is, but we have to, you know.
Yes, yes. Just print the diagrams if you want to master them. Dry fire again, dry fire. Expect them to see them at classifier matches.
Yes.
So these will be used as I mentioned, and use them as training tools.
Yep.
Right, not just classification opportunities.
You go there in the classifier and say, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Just shoot it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
no, have a plan.
Exactly. Exactly.
And try to understand all of these classifiers.
Yeah.
So, and then again, dry fire it.
Yeah.
And so when you see it, you know how to do it. You know
right.
how to address that.
And it's not going to bite you and basically be surprised on what to do.
And I don't even know this. Well, just
Right.
shoot it. Right.
I've had that situation before,
Okay.
right? And I've overlooked one specific skill,
Yep.
which is the strong hand, weak hand.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right, and there are classifiers that are based around that kind of skill. Right,
There you
so
go,
if
penalties.
You don't practice it, your weak hand will be very wobbly.
Oh yeah.
And I think I was shooting limited there, and
At the time,
it
right?
was like crazy.
So I did that one time too in subs. I did
Yeah.
did use my left hand, and then
and you're like,
my gun
"What is
had a
this?"
battery. No, okay. So again, practice dry fire for this kind of classifiers. That's a good one. All right, so let's look for another rule change in 2025: classifier list optimization, a cleaner, sharper stage pool. So what changed in USPSA removed outdated or underperforming classifier stages to create more refined and relevant library. So this matters because you'll now compete on classifiers that actually test competitive skills. They just didn't put it just because.
Yeah.
Now it actually tests your competitive skills. This is not just a gimmick or just a dated design. So maybe we can give them an example here.
Right. No, that's you nailed it. 100% because this is the way it actually needs to be cleaned.
Yes.
Cleaned up. Right. Another one example that you were mentioning is gone is the CM06-04, right? Tight squeeze, right? A stage with clunky design and a little relevance to match skills.
Yeah.
Now you get more balance, like a CM22-05, like the slide and snap, which tests movements, transitions, and things that you see at any local matches or major match.
That's the most important thing there.
Yeah.
What you practice is what you actually get as well.
Right,
because you're
right,
there.
Right.
So how do we go about this one?
I say just focus on your practice on classifiers
as
that
usual.
reflects today's USPSA stages and scenarios, right? The clubs, they usually update their classifier match books.
Oh, that's good.
What our club in Pro Gun, we normally use the new ones now.
The new ones,
right? And expect more consistency across matches, which is great for traveling shooters. So they don't expect anything that they haven't.
What? I don't know this.
They
right?
haven't practiced or encountered.
Exactly. But just talking about that classifiers, JM. I think you would want guys to, give due diligence to your sport.
Yeah.
Go over USPSA classifiers.
Right.
If you have time, kind of read one at a time.
Yeah.
Just see how you're going to be attacking it once you see them. Just be ready because this is going to be part of your developing your skills.
Right.
Okay. So another 2025 USPSA rule change is the high hit factor recalibration. So expect classification shifts. What does this mean, GM?
You know what? A big change in that is all classifiers, high hit factors have now been recalibrated to better reflect the true performance spectrum.
That's good.
It's super important. It matters a lot because you might see your classification rise
Or fall. Wow. Okay.
Depending on how the old high hit factors compared to the new benchmarks of today's classification system.
Exactly. So let's give them an example here. Say for example your classifier CM18-08. Say for example you have a score of 85%. That actually is a master level.
Yep.
So with the new high hit factor that runs, it's the same. is only 79%, dropping you to A class.
Right.
So that could happen.
Yeah.
So
I think I know a couple of people want that to happen.
exactly right. Before you have to, to send them a letter.
Right, send them a letter
formally.
and they'll say no,
They'll
no,
say
stay in your class.
So maybe what we can all do, guys, here is just check USPSA's updated high hit factors and recalculate your old runs.
Yeah.
And then use this moment as a fresh classification reset. I think that this is applicable to all of us, right? And then consider shooting new classifiers. Just go out there, look at these classifiers to re-benchmark your skill level.
Right.
So, and I think this is going to be a benefit for everybody.
Right. Normally for our territory and the club here, there's 2 clubs that we usually shoot, right? And we're now approaching the time of like all classifier matches.
Yes.
So this would play a big role, especially
Definitely.
if you're not classified yet and you want to be classified or you want to class up, right? So the new changes will be very applicable to you as a shooter on how you're going to approach all of this to be able to get that scoring that you want.
Exactly. So that's a good one. This one is something that caught my attention really. A new USPSA rule about video.
Yeah.
So video evidence is now permitted in scoring appeals.
Right.
Say, for example, hey, I shot it. I can show it to you now.
Or a foot fault.
Or a foot fault.
You got a procedure, right?
That's actually I actually like this.
Yeah.
So video can now be used in scoring disputes as long as it's clear.
Right.
And unedited.
Yeah.
And of course, it shows the action in question.
Right.
So this will bring more accountability to scoring and gives competitors a fair chance to challenge bad calls. I remember NBA was the same thing too before.
Yes, the replay.
The replay.
Right.
Before it's a final call. Referee's call will always going to be final.
Right.
But now they do the replay
and they can challenge it, right?
That's why I like this.
So again, in the essence of USPSA ROs and the range masters, please make sure that you know the proper procedure.
Yes.
And not just bring out your phone and start arguing that it's
definitely,
this and that. So that's super important. So,
yeah. So say for example, guys, you engage a popper at 20 yards. It wobbles, but it didn't fall. And the RO will call it a miss, right? But your GoPro footage clearly shows the popper was hit solidly and start falling before the timer stopped. So the result, maybe your call is reversed. It could be, it could happen.
Right,
now,
right.
So how can we do this?
I would say invest on a good camera, right, and a stable camera.
Yeah.
Also have, this is usually the common practice around us, right? You would ask your friend or your buddy to video you from a third person point of view. Yeah. So aside from that, not only you have the third person point of view, you also have your chest cam or your hat cam, right? Yeah. And then make sure it's a clear view of you and the target. So when time comes and you would need to use those videos, it's clear as day that you're able to I would say arbitrate the call, whatever call that is. But be respectful for video on the PL. Again, right. Follow the RM's protocols, which is the range master, and not just bring that video out and start arguing. Remember, there may be shooters in front, ahead of you, and also after you.
Exactly. That's a good one, Jim. Yeah. That's the reason why when I saw this, I read this one. This is actually
this is good. This is good. I've seen it. A handful of times. Keep in mind, our great ROs there. They see shooters. 200, 300. In a day or two, in the course of the match.
Exactly.
So they will,
especially big matches, right?
Big matches, right? So they're also human. They're also shooters, like us. I'm sure it's not on purpose. but that's a good platform, and it brings out the ability for the competitor to at least dispute
Exactly.
that call.
But what I like about what you told GM, still, guys, we love this sport. We give respect to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
if you would want to dispute,
Yeah.
and just make sure that you're going to be doing it
Right.
politely too,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Don't shout at
you
them.
know?
Yeah, please don't do that.
This is a fun game, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we keep it at that.
Yep.
All right, optic failures treated as malfunctions.
Yeah.
Wow, what is this, JM?
Yeah,
This is new.
This is new. Yes, yes. But if your optic dies or detaches,
Wow.
which we've seen it fly,
Fly,
right?
right.
During a stage, any dot, dot division, it's treated as a malfunction, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is, don't look at the RO asking for a bailout or a reshoot. There are no reruns.
Yep.
Okay, no division switches.
Yep.
Right. So you have to, you have to troubleshoot it yourself, or
Do what you have to do.
continue
Yeah.
on.
Continue
You're
on.
responsible
Yeah.
for your own gear. First and foremost, you're responsible for your own gear. So make sure, again, this dates back to our, earlier episodes. Double check your gear before you attend a big match.
Exactly.
Right. But when you're on the line where you're shooting and that stuff happens, the match doesn't wait.
Correct.
Just finish it as best as you can, and go to the safety area and lock tight that thing.
Yep.
You know.
So again, your red dot goes black halfway through, let's just say, a 32
Ooh,
round
that's-
field
that's a
course.
lot.
That's a lot.
Hopefully towards the end.
Hopefully, towards
Not
end,
the
right?
start, right?
Oh, that's gonna be hard.
Oh, my
That's gonna
goodness.
be hard.
And you got steel?
And you don't see your dot, and then your popper. Oh my
there's
god.
no shoots. There's swingers and steel.
Oh my god. You're
Yeah.
finished. So you finish the stage by guessing your sight picture.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do, and your score stance. Tough luck, but it's fair. you know.
Yeah.
So
if
again,
you're EP, you're going to finish that with a high hit
yeah,
factor.
if you're me. But then again, the most important thing is what JM said a while ago. Make sure you use fresh batteries.
I'm so OCD. I don't know about you, but I'm so OCD on big matches.
Oh.
Like, I double, triple, quadruple check.
Oh, yeah,
make
definitely,
sure
yeah.
everything is tight. All, all the screws are locked tight.
Exactly.
And it's ready to go. Nothing. I just peace of mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You're gonna go there to prove your skills, but your gun is not working. So everything should be ready.
Yes. Yeah.
So secure your optics with torque specs and thread lockers. The one that you
Right.
were saying, I like
Right.
that.
Right.
Practice finishing stages. Dot down just in case.
Yep.
So
Yep.
these are the things that if you are, whether you're a new shooter or you've been shooting for a while, you're a grandmaster. We all need to do all of
Yeah.
those stuff.
Bring extras.
Bring extras, definitely, right? So let's give them one more, Jim.
Yeah, no, I think the one important thing here also is updated gear position.
Oh
rules,
yeah, that's right.
So some of the what changed is basically more rigorous enforcement of legal gear placement in
Yeah.
divisions, right? Like production, carry optic, or single stack, where
Yeah.
you have a lot of magazines
Magazines.
around you. It matters because it curbs the gaming setup.
We talked about that.
That bends the division rules, right?
We talked about that, yeah.
Again, we talked about this last week. There are some, based on my experience with matches, I haven't seen it fully like 100% enforced back then.
Okay.
So my expectation with these new rules that it's gonna be a lot more
Oh yeah,
tighter.
definitely. Yeah.
Right.
So if you guys don't, it's kind of vague on how we said it, right? Because each division, if you're only in one division, you might not
Yeah.
understand the other division. Okay, so
Right.
mag pouches, say for
Yeah.
example, it sits forward on your hip, almost under your belly button. So a CRR checks with the USPSA jig and say you're out of spec. You either adjust or risk being bumped out of the division.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
If you recall this, Area 2.
Yes. Yeah.
They made us fall in line.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And they have that card making sure that they're measuring
The size, the measurement is correct.
the distance of your holster and
from your
the
hip.
backpack.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm glad it's being like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's very professional the way I look at it.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
You know, it's not that they're being nosy. No, it's just being fair in the game. That's the reason why they want to do that, right? And I like that for the new rule as well. So for me, check your rig, you know, with USPSA measuring tools, just like what Jim was saying. There's a card, you know.
Yeah. The distance from the holster and your belt.
Your belt,
You
you
know?
know. So adjust and retrain your reloads or draw if needed, because sometimes, you know, you are dry firing, but your mag pouches are sitting in the wrong place. But that's how you actually, you know, learn how to get those reloads. So it's going to be a huge adjustment. So I want to make sure that you guys do that. And of course, better to be legal than fast and disqualified.
Right. Yeah, no, it's better to be making sure that you're following all the rules, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're there on chrono and they're checking your gear.
And you're doing like that.
Yeah. That's
I like the way that you're doing it. You just before you go to the match, you know, you really make sure, triple check that everything's right and correct.
Right. So all you have to do is focus on your shooting. You know, your gears are all in place, and
you know, it's very you're right. You know, can you imagine you're playing, you're still worried about your gears?
Yeah,
that's the last thing that you would want to see yourself when you actually shoot
unexpected,
competitively.
You know, you don't want unexpected worriness that you would have to do.
It's just a waste of stress,
right?
You know, instead of focusing on your game, right? I like that. All right, you know, on level 3, JM, steel plate usage restricted at level 3 and above. Okay, so steel only stages are no longer allowed at major matches. Steel must be accompanied by cardboard targets or poppers.
Right. So gone are the days where you have a stage that are all steel. Right. Now you have to incorporate papers and cardboard
and cardboard targets.
You know, so this is good. Right, you know, it matters to the shooters because it reduces reshoots. And it keeps the matches running on time.
Yeah, of course. You know, the reshoots really just delays everybody, and now there's going to be a bottleneck.
Right.
You know, you see the other group is actually waiting already.
Right.
You don't want that.
That's the one that's tiring.
That's tiring. You know, exactly. And you know your timing. Because you know you're gonna lose it.
There's a squad timing.
Exactly.
For everybody.
And then you lose it. Oh my God! And then your energy starts going down. You don't like that.
Oh, that happened to me before. So there was a squad already in front of us that are waiting that has not shot yet. Right, and we caught up. Then the squad in front of them are finishing up.
Wow.
So the squad in front of them is halfway done. They still need to shoot, and then us.
Wow. See, can you imagine that? That's really that's a no for me there because definitely my energy.
Your energy goes down.
It just goes down.
You're sleepy.
And you're hungry.
You're hungry.
Lunchtime. You know, there was this an area match, you know, in 2024 that a steel-only stage with a plate that wouldn't fall consistently. Half the squad, like just what you're saying, had reshoots. And that's a lot, right? So, and then in 2025, that stage now includes cardboard partials, minimizing that risk of equipment-induced reshoots. So, you know, your time, well, you know, I know sometimes we're hungry or we're tired already. Can you imagine if that's a 10 stages in a day and that happens on number 9?
Right. Yeah.
You can't wait to go home. That's, you know. So how are you going to go around with this one?
I say you always make sure the expectation that you have in your head is you train for hybrid stages with both steel and cardboard.
Definitely.
Okay, so don't expect it to be an all steel match. It's not going to happen, right?
It's not going to happen. Correct.
You know, so prepare for more accuracy intensive paper stages at majors. If you remember, you will never see a plate rack, nor a Texas Star, nor a Polish rack on you know big matches. Right. So it doesn't in your local club. Yes, maybe. You know. So match directors, you know, they're able to adjust stage plans accordingly. You know, and then they plan for a better better stages.
Yep.
And better stages leads to better attendance for shooters.
Yep, and we entice a lot of shooters.
Right.
But yeah, guys, I think those are the only items that we would want to keep you guys updated on the 2025 USPSA rules. In short, guys, USPSA is evolving.
Yeah.
If it's evolving, so should the shooters too.
Yes.
It's not all about
Can't be
USPSA.
stagnant.
It's us too, right?
Yeah, you can't be stagnant.
Yeah, you cannot be stagnant. You go after your next level,
Right.
improve your skill set. So
Right.
USPSA of 2025, the way I look at it, JM is smarter, sharper, and this is the most important thing, more accountable now.
Right. Now, I do some these days with the USPSA, right? There you see a lot, you read a lot of stuff that's been happening in the background, and some, try to detach all of those negative stuff from the USPSA happening right now, but just focus on the shooting. That's all we want is just to shoot, right? There are some
The fun of shooting.
Governing bodies that handles all of those matters, and I'm sure they're going to iron out everything, and we're still, so these changes will play really, really good role for this year moving forward.
Exactly.
These kind of changes, in a shift towards consistency over chaos.
Yes.
Right. Skill over score manipulation, and preparedness over luck. Right. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna.
Now you're intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, no more gaming classifiers. No more, praying for reshoots. No more hiding behind division quirks. Now it's about time to show up. Play by the rules and let your skills do the talking.
Exactly. So you've got a clean slate. So let's all use that, right? Because of these new rules. Recheck your classifiers, rethink your match prep, rebuild your strategy. Okay. Reignite your hunger, right? Because these are all new. Because in 2025, USPSA is not just about a shooting sport. It's a skill. You test your skills here. And the shooters must adapt fastest. Of course, will rise fastest.
Yep.
All right, guys.
That's a good
So I
topic.
think I actually like the topic today, JM. That's a wrap up for us today, shooters. So if you're digging the content, lock and load, like that button, subscribe, and smash the bell so you're always in the loop.
Also, if you got something in your mind, drop it in the comments. We're all about leveling up together. Stay focused, stay fast, and we'll see you in the range.
See you guys.